All right, what is up, running out the clock listeners? This is Chandler. I'm here to talk about Rebel basketball and the difficult week that was, and kind of trying to remind you that the season is kind of all about perspective. So this morning's show is brought to you by the word perspective. Individual words do tend to pay a lot of money for sponsorships, and so it's an honor to be sponsored by Perspective this morning. Sam is not with me today, which I'm very sad about, as I'm sure you are as well, because, he's just good to have on, good to listen to talk, but it's Super Bowl Sunday this morning, and we're probably not going to have time this evening to get together and record, and I don't want to let it get too deep into the week before we try to do it again. So I'm flying solo, and I'm going to try to keep it short because there's not a lot of good stuff to talk about this week as the Rebels continued their losing streak, which is a bummer. And, probably 2 weeks ago didn't feel like that was even a possibility. But I am here to try to salvage the good from it, and I think there is a lot of good that we see. So let's dive right in. We're coming off a heartbreaking week for Ole Miss, a week in which Ole Miss had a lead against Florida with 3 seconds to go and lost the game in overtime. And then you also had a really, really, really good basketball game. I don't want to let the disappointment of losing to State on your home court, I don't want to let that get in the way of what was an amazing game and probably one of the better. I mean, just like the earlier matchup in Starkville with State, that's a game that if you took Ole Miss and State off the names of the jerseys, that would be a game that you still would be locked in on and want to watch. So I don't want to take away from what a good game it was, but it was disappointing to lose, especially when you've already beaten that team on their court. But so look, here's and this is the problem. This is the problem for both games, for both the Florida game and the Mississippi State game, that Ole Miss has got to address, but is not, at least in my eyes, not capable of addressing this season without adding more talent to the roster. So you go down to Florida, you play a really good game, your intensity's up, your guards play really well, and you lose because you get almost no production in the paint. You come back home to Mississippi State. You come back home to Oxford against Mississippi State. You play a really good game in which your guards, particularly Breein Tyree, are excellent, and you get no production from your bigs whatsoever. And going into the season, that was always going to be the problem. That was always going to be the issue. You were always going to struggle with teams that could go in the paint and score and get rebounds and do those things. And the big difference from the first time Ole Miss played State and the second time Ole Miss played State was Reggie Perry. Reggie Perry was an absolute beast. You kind of pay attention to him a little bit, and you see early on, you kind of see these flashes of potential, and you see, man, this guy really has got the physical tools, and his body looks right. Everything about him looks really good, but he's just not put it together yet. Well, he put it together this week in the game against. He looked good against Alabama, but he looked really good against Ole Miss, and so. The stat there in a game that I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but in a game that was decided by about 6 points, when you look at the number of offensive rebounds and putbacks that Mississippi State, but especially Reggie Perry, were able to get, that's the difference in the game. And so that's really, really, really frustrating to watch your bigs and I'm not necessarily calling guys out here because I hate to do that. I don't want to criticize guys unfairly, but when you look at a guy who's 7 feet tall in Dominic Oliniechek, you look at a guy who's, 6'9", 6'10", and a senior in Bruce Stevens, you really want to expect those guys to be able to get some rebounds, and they combined for 0 rebounds against Mississippi State. That's bad. That's unacceptable, and that's really, really, really frustrating to watch. Because I mean, your centers. Like, one of your main responsibilities in any basketball scheme is to get rebounds, and they can't do it. Stevens was able to chip in with, I think, 12 or 13 points yesterday, which was nice, but ultimately not really that helpful. And you end up with KJ Buffin leading all the post players with 4 rebounds. And I mean, there's no way around it. There's no way you can kind of rationalize that away and say, well, the matchup ball. No, like, your post guys have got to get more rebounds than that. But like I said, this episode today is brought to you by the word perspective. And so I want to put at least, I don't know, maybe you call this a positive spin or whatever, but I want to put this in the proper perspective for, I think, what Ole Miss fans need to be looking for this season. I do believe that after the last 6 games or so, which I believe, I'm saying the word believe a lot, and I'm sorry, but I'm driving, so I'm trying to not die. So if my normal, refined, polished speaking form and voice and all that is not what it normally is, it's because I'm trying to make sure that I survive so that I can continue to, A, provide for a family, and B, provide the excellent contact that I normally bring to you here on Running Out the Clock. So, perspective. Coming into this season, Ole Miss was picked last in the SEC. And it was hard. I don't know. I had a gut feeling that wasn't going to be the case. But it was hard to argue against it because it was a team that came off of a really bad season. Maybe 12-win season. I can't remember exactly what the record was, but it was not good. I believe they only won 5 SEC games. Also not good. And it was you could kind of see that this was a team that was going to be pieced together in a way that Kermit Davis was not going to build a team. So you come into the year and you look, and my thought coming into the season was that, look, if this team can get to 18 wins, even if they miss postseason play, 18 wins shows you that Kermit can do some things, and that this is not going to be, this is going to be the least talented roster that Kermit Davis ever has at Ole Miss. Maybe not talented. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's going to be the least fit roster for his scheme that he's going to have at Ole Miss. And so, if you could get to 18 wins with that team, then you were feeling pretty good, about what the future was going to look like. Well, what ended up happening was Ole Miss got out to a really hot start, got a couple of good wins in the non-conference. I mean, you got that win over Baylor. I guess the San Diego win is not looking particularly good at this point because they've struggled. But you got that win over Baylor, and you just didn't lose any bad games. And then you get off to the hot 3-0 start against on the road at Vanderbilt, which Vanderbilt turned out to be terrible. At home against Auburn, on the road against Mississippi State, and all of a sudden at that point everything has changed. Your expectations have changed. You're being predicted as high as a 4 seed, and so all of a sudden for about 2 weeks you're the darlings of the college basketball world, which is really good. I don't know when that's ever happened. I think with Marshall Henderson and that group, you were kind of the bad boys of the college basketball world. But you're the darlings of the college basketball world, which is good. You're nationally ranked, which is good. But the whole time you could kind of see that this was a little bit of a paper tiger. And that's exposed against LSU. And then you go on to this streak where you just honestly, you get the crap beaten out of you by Alabama because Alabama is big and strong and physical and you're not. And then, you play well. And look, I don't want to let this all be doom and gloom. You played pretty well against Iowa State. The defense was bad, but your guards were really good. You played well against Florida, and you played well against State. And so I think the perspective that I think Kermit Davis is providing this season is that when he gets a team, he's not going to build a team that's going to feature a couple of post players who get 0 rebounds at home in a rivalry game. I just don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's something that you can look at and expect going forward. He's going to mold this roster to have guys down low that are a good bit more athletic. They're a good bit more defensive minded, and they're going to be able to go and get those rebounds. So are you going to consistently get players the caliber of Reggie Perry? Probably not. But if you can consistently get players the caliber of KJ Buffin and Blake Henson, then I think you're going to be fine, because you're going to be able to go and get those rebounds. Buffin really showed you at Florida, where he had 17 points, had all of his free throws, just had an unbelievable. I mean, I think the best game that he's had, which actually earned him the start against Mississippi State. You're going to get those kinds of guys, and so those kind of guys are going to be able to go as they get bigger, as they get stronger, as they get kind of ingrained more into Kermit's system and the way he wants to play. Those guys are going to be productive down low. I think maybe Henson fits in more as a guard, but that's the point I'm trying to make here. So and this was the thing that, Andy Kennedy was really, really good at adapting his roster or adapting his offense or his scheme to fit the players that he had. And that was good more often than not, but every now and then it came back to bite you. I think last year's the perfect example, because I think AK thought that Dominic was going to be a different kind of player. He told, Kennedy repeatedly told people that, Dom was an NBA level center. That's obviously not true, but it's kind of hard. When you see the guy in practice every day and you see the physical tools that he has, it's weird that he just doesn't produce. But he also thought that in Markel Crawford and DeAndre Burnett last season, that he had a couple of veteran guys that were going to be able to score, that were going to be able to help, and do different things that they just didn't do. Markel Crawford did not contribute the way that you hoped he would. DeAndre Burnett was not the scorer in the mold of, say, Marshall Henderson or Stephon Moody that everybody kind of thought he was going to be, and so it kind of fell apart that season, and that was after it was a pretty good season. I know that a lot of people sit there and think, well, NIT is unacceptable, that's wrong, blah, blah, that's I don't know. I don't know that Ole Miss basketball is at a place right now, or maybe ever, where you can be disappointed with any postseason play. But that's another discussion for another time. So you kind of didn't ever really know what you were going to get with Kennedy teams. And I think that Kermit Davis has shown you what you're going to get with Ole Miss teams under him. You're going to get teams that are going to defend, and that they're gonna play tough, they're gonna play hard, and they're not going to be intimidated. And it's hard to kind of see that right now, because you just don't have any of the physicality down low that you need. But I don't know, man. I think that's coming. I think that's gonna be a staple going forward, because I think that when you look, Kermit's mentality, from what I've been able to tell, is that you always want to have a redshirt post player that you're working on and developing. And it seems like they're pretty pleased with Carlos Curry right now, that he's going to be able to contribute next season. You look and you're bringing in Sammy Hunter, who's coming in at 6'9", 230 already. You're bringing in Dude Collum, who's coming in at 6'7", 6'8", 220 pounds. Another guy that's built kind of like Buffin, but maybe a step ahead or two in his progress. You've got a guy in Rodney Howard who's coming in next year, who is highly recruited. So you've got guys coming in that I think are going to fit that mold a little better. And so I think that what you're seeing is perspective. And when you look at the next season and the next two seasons, you've got 2 more years of Devontae Shuler. You've got 1 more year of Breein Tyree, and those guys have benefited greatly from Kermit Davis's system. And so, as hard as it is right now to look at what Ole Miss did when they started off and how the season began to where they are right now, that's frustrating. But I have to think that you look at that and say that's not going to be the norm going forward. Coach Davis is going to leave his mark on the program. He's going to mold these teams. And look, you're still in a spot. I mean, it's not ideal right now, but you're still in a spot where you can make some noise. If you can make some noise in the rest of the SEC, you only have a couple of games coming up. I would say that Tennessee and Kentucky are both going to be really, really tough games considering the flaws that Ole Miss has. But outside of those, and probably Auburn if Austin Wiley gets healthy again, but I've not really read up on that situation nearly as much as I need to. So I don't know if he's out for the year or what, but I don't think he is. But anyway, you've got games against this week, games against Texas A&M and against Georgia, who are they're not the upper half of the SEC, and you look at Tennessee and you look at Kentucky and you think those games probably are going to be tough to win, but hey, look, they're at home, so the team plays pretty well at home, and it does look like Devontae Shuler is getting healthier, which it didn't seem like that was going to be a thing. And he was really, really good yesterday. Yesterday against State. So, maybe that's going in the right direction. So, look, there's still some hope, but you've got to kind of get things righted, and you've got some teams right now that if you're going to get it righted, these are the guys you want to see. So, bounce back, get a win against A&M Wednesday, go on the road, see if you can get a win against Georgia, and all of a sudden you're back with 16 wins. You're looking at heading into the middle of February into March with maybe getting a little momentum back. And so it's not over, although Ole Miss certainly has not done itself any favors in the last several games. So, we'll see what happens. But I think that even if the expectations for this season change to, hey, we're just hoping we get to play an NIT game at home, that's still leaps and bounds ahead of where you thought you were going to be this year. And so enjoy it, and then look at the recruiting, look at what's coming up, and say, look, the future's bright. The future's really bright because you got a lot of names that are interested. You got some different things that are happening, and perspective. It's all about perspective. And so, hopefully you can finish out the regular season strong. You will kind of be kicking yourself for some missed opportunities, for as well as Iowa State shot. You had a chance with 4 minutes left to take the lead, as well as Mississippi State played, as well as Reggie Perry played. You had a chance to win that game. You had a chance to win at Florida. Like, you had some opportunities that you might end up kicking yourself. If you do find yourself on the wrong side of the bubble in March, you find yourself, frustrated, kicking yourself, whatever, that a shot or two more didn't fall in those games. But overall, you've got to be really pleased with what has happened, assuming that the wheels just don't completely fall off. And, I haven't seen anything that would indicate that the wheels are going to fall off. I haven't seen anything that says that these guys are packing it in or quitting or anything like that. So, yeah, it's all about perspective, and it's all about fighting in these next couple of weeks to see what kind of positioning you can get yourself into. And look, I think if you win the rest of the games that you should win, which again, you get Georgia twice, that can be 2 wins. I believe I know you played Missouri once, maybe twice, I'm not sure. But if you can get that win, if you can beat Texas A&M, if you can beat Arkansas again, you're looking at I think it just listed off like 5 wins. You're looking at having 19 wins, and then if you can get one of Auburn on the road, Tennessee at home, Kentucky at home, and again, that is a huge if. I mean, a massive if. I'm not predicting those as wins by any stretch, but you can still put yourself in really good position to make some noise, at least win a game or two in the SEC tournament, to find yourselves on the bubble and maybe even finding your way on the right side of the bubble. You still got time, but you've got to turn it around. And you cannot have another game where Stevens and Olenichek combine for 0 rebounds. It's just bad, no matter how you slice it. So it's still there. There's still a lot to play for. There's still a lot of possibilities. It does not seem like Terrence Davis and Breon Tyree and Devontae Shuler are cooling off at all. Like, those games have not, those guys have not had necessarily elite outings every time, but as a trio, they've been unbelievable. And so I don't want what they've done this season to get lost in some of the frustrations of the last few weeks, because it certainly hadn't been on them. And look, if Ole Miss finds itself in the tournament this year, or if Ole Miss finds itself in the tournament next season or the season after, they're standing on the shoulders of what Terrence Davis did for Ole Miss this year. He has provided a very lovable face for the program, kind of in a similar way that Steph Moody did. But I think Ole Miss owes a lot to Terrence Davis, and then I think the same thing will happen next season with Breein Tyree as a senior. Really, really good, high level senior guard, and then the next season with Devontae Shuler again. So if that happens, you've got to look at these guys and say, man, like, we're here because of you, and their legacies are going to last, I think, long beyond what they accomplish on the court. Just kind of being able to give, I don't know, that maybe deserves a little bit more fleshing out than I'm going to give it right now. But like I said, it's all about perspective. It's all about trying to keep your head up and fighting for a few more wins this season and putting yourself into a spot where you come into next season really, really strong, and next season a little bit more equipped with a team that's going to be prepared to really run the kind of offense and defense that Kermit Davis wants to run. I mean, you'll have, potentially in the starting lineup next season, you'll have 6'11" Carlos Curry, maybe a 6'9" Sammy Hunter, 6'7" KJ Buffin, a 6'5" Blake Henson, 6'5", 6'6". I'm not sure what he's listed at, and then, your quote little guys with a 6'2" or 6'3", Devontae Shuler or Breein Tyree. So the size is coming. Hopefully the rebounds are coming. And again, hopefully there's a few more wins coming. So anyway, that's all I got for today. Like I said, just recording a quick hit for you in my car. Frustrating week the week before, but you've played some really high-level basketball teams, and 3 of the last 4 games you've played really well. You just came up against really good teams, and so I don't know. We'll see. Significantly less optimism than before, but like I said, it's all about perspective, and I think that even with the frustrating last couple of weeks, I still like the direction the program's headed. I love the intensity that I see week in and week out, not just of the team, but of the home crowd. And Ole Miss fans are going to support a winner. They're going to show up. They're going to be loud. They're going to have a good time. And hopefully that doesn't tail off this season. I know there's at least one more sellout on the schedule. Hopefully they'll keep doing that. But we'll see. And even if it comes down to it, we're Ole Miss fans. Our next favorite phrase behind Hotty Toddy is always wait till next year. But I think Kermit Davis has shown you that, at least I hope he has. He's shown you that he's earned your trust and earned the support. So keep coming out, support the team, and we'll see where it goes from here. But as always, thanks for listening. I really enjoy doing this, and I hope that you'll come back next week. Hopefully we'll have some dubs to talk about. But, hope you either enjoy or have enjoyed the Super Bowl and eat some good food. Apparently, according to a survey and a map that was going on Twitter, Mississippians love granola bars at their Super Bowl parties. So, I don't know, in all the years of going to Super Bowl parties as a Mississippian, I've never once seen a granola bar there. But apparently you're eating them, so enjoy it. Enjoy all the granola you can, and we'll see you next week. This has been Welcome to the Tad. I don't think I ever even said the name. Maybe I did, but whatever. This has been Welcome to the Tad Pod, brought to you by Perspective, and stay tuned because Young Sheldon is next. Thanks for listening.